It is the rivalry that people say of all rivalries. Ohio State versus Michigan this weekend in Ann Arbor. When you preview this game, how do you see it going down?
Ohio State is a 9.5-point favorite on the road for this game on FanDuel, for anybody who's wondering. Blake, there's two things that I'm monitoring here and I think are important for opening this conversation. Ohio State, there is not a lot of clarity on what the health situation is for their two most important receivers, their two most important offensive weapons. Carnell Tate's been out for some time. Jeremiah Smith's been out briefly. There was a video of Jeremiah Smith on the sideline interacting with fans or something, I believe, and he was walking really gingerly. Looked really, really hobbled the way that he was walking, but the guy is a super athlete. I'm sure that he recovers at a ridiculous rate. You have that happening with Ohio State. You have Michigan, who was really sputtering offensively since they lost Justice Haynes, having a massive offensive performance against Maryland this weekend where they won 45-20. They did something similar last year where they won 50-6 against Northwestern before they beat Ohio State. Not using any of this stuff as evidence for Michigan winning this game. I'm merely pointing out those were the first two talking points, the first two narratives that popped in my head when I was doing research. What happens with the passing attack? Does Michigan have momentum that they did not have previously? And are they catching it at the right time?
So, listen, for me, I said in the beginning of the show that I want you to throw everything out. Because it seems to me that every time that we preview this game, and me and you come in here and we pick Ohio State to win, they don't. I'm throwing everything out. Now, I'm going to give my thoughts about what I think Ohio State's got to do. I mean, look, I think this is the second best team that they've played all year, which is a little bit crazy in a lot of regards. The number one thing this week, when we talk about the whole hatred, everything that transpired last year, Ohio State, let's call it what it is. You lost this game last year, and it propelled you into a national title. You were wanting to fire your head coach a year ago, literally a year ago to date. You were wanting, when this game is kicked off, you were wanting to fire your head coach because he lost. Michigan planting their flag in the middle of your field, and there was absolutely nothing that you could do about it. Nothing. With a team who, quite honestly, yes, maybe defensively was a little bit better, but a team that is better now. Look, you can say whatever you want about Bryce Underwood and them offensively. Joe, just want to throw this out there to you. When I look at Michigan, I look at them this year, they're 38th in the country in total offense. If I would have come in here and I would have told you in the beginning of the season, Joe, the team that could not do anything, that was anemic as hell offensively in Michigan, would be 38th in the country, top 40 in the country going into that game versus Ohio State. You'd be like, oh my God, Bryce Underwood and this team's rolling. What changes now? What changes now? This is going to be a street fight galore, an absolute punch you in the mouth, blood flying everywhere, shades of Frazier Ali in the jungle. It's going to be a bloodbath because I see two teams that hate one another. Now, Matt Patricia, there's one key to this game that you got to do. Get your happy ass and send that pressure after Bryce Underwood. Bottom line. And if their receivers can beat your DBs, by all means, let them do it. Joe, I'm putting 7, sometimes 8 guys in the box, and I'm sending the heat. And I am telling Michigan, I'm telling Bryce Underwood, beat me. Bottom line. And I am going to go right at him, and I'm going to punch him in the mouth through 4 quarters. And if he does it, great. If he makes great decisions, awesome. Then we can adjust if he's actually doing that. They have been the best, has Ohio State, in my opinion, at showing one thing and sending something else. The way Patricia has utilized Caleb Downs all year has been flawless. However, this is the best rushing attack that you've seen all year, and it's not close. And I am wondering, can Michigan run the ball on them at all? This is the most physical team offensively that you've seen all year. I don't like using this verbiage, but it's true. It isn't close. the 10th rushing offense in the country. Can Michigan lean and moments and times to keep this close and get into a fourth quarter with a home crowd with the Big Blue? But I am pressuring Bryce Underwood until I can't pressure him anymore, and I am making him beat me.
I think that's a really important starting point here. And I think that it's where ultimately Ohio State has the biggest edge. I think Ohio State's defense this year has been stronger than last year's. I thought that the difference between last year and this year, last year's group was very veteran laden and experienced. This year, it's loaded with explosive, talented athletes, orchestrated by a far more creative and aggressive defensive coordinator than last year.
Yeah,
Matt Patricia has put this group together in the perfect rhythm to where they are just impossible to move the ball against. I think that you're 100% right. You're going up against a team that's 8th in the country in EPA per rush. They're running the ball very efficiently, even without Justice Haynes. Marshall has been a tremendous asset, and I know that he's also been banged up. They have been able to turn to some other guys. Bryson Kuzal, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, he stepped up against Maryland and had a very solid game. So they're well recruited at running back. There's always going to be somebody in the wings if they need to turn to him. Bryce Underwood, we also know, has been a layer to their run game as he has 322 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns this season because he's huge and he's a great, great athlete. Mm-hmm. Blake, I think that they have to do everything in their power to force Michigan to try and beat them over the top and with their receivers. I understand that Andrew Marsh and Donovan McCulley have stepped up and have played a lot better than anything that he had last year, but I think that Ohio State absolutely has the bodies to play in one-on-one coverage on the outside. If Underwood is able to connect with Marsh or with McCulley in space and to be able to withstand the pressure, then Michigan's able to earn it. Michigan's able to earn a good offensive day if they're able to succeed in that circumstance. That is the key there. Patricia's got to make a true freshman quarterback that spoke about in the preseason how he wants to be the best freshman quarterback of all time and put all these lofty goals on himself. They need to make him earn it after he has hyped himself up this much. That is, I think, the biggest way to kind of look at this. And on the flip side of things, what does Sayin do if he's only got Jeremiah Smith or if he's without either receiver? Can we trust Bo Jackson to get rolling going up against one of the better, probably the best run defense that they've seen all year? Can they rely on their rushing attack if they need to in spurts? Because frankly, last year, it felt like when they couldn't run the ball, their offense was completely shot. Chip Kelly's offense is completely different than Brian Hartline's, but it's one thing to me that really has my attention.
You know, you bring that up. And my question going into this one, Michigan has 28 sacks on the season, averaging 2.5 sacks per game. Mm-hmm. Ohio State's a little bit above. They have 29 sacks on the season. This Michigan front, who I thought, Joe, at the end of the Oklahoma game, I feel like that they've been a little bit different in how Bryce has decided and made decisions, but they realized that they got to temper their expectations in reference to what they were asking him to do in crucial situations. Can this front seven for Michigan, if it's just a banged up Jeremiah Smith, hypothetically, we don't know. We're talking about this on Monday, so we don't know who's going to play. Can they get after Julian Sayin? Now, you turn around and you say to yourself, man, Ohio State has not been in a situation this year where they've really faced adversity. Not really. I mean, maybe you could point to Texas, but can you tell me when this team has really faced adversity? Like, when is this Ohio State? And listen, I know that Elks, I know that Buck, and I know all these guys that watch the show are going to come in here. Name it. Name the time. And I ask myself the question, has Julian Sayin, if you haven't as a team, means that your quarterback hasn't been in pressured situations. So I think you bring up the second point in this. Joe, I got to just listen. I know that you have Megatron, you have elite receivers out there. I don't know if early I'm not also trying to get after Julian Sayin. That I'm not trying to, if I'm not Wink Martindale, I'm not trying to send him stuff that he clearly hasn't seen yet. Because everybody that Ohio State's played, what have all of them done? They have been terrified of what Ohio State has out wide. You should be. They're elite out wide. Not good, not great. They're elite out wide. If that unit's banged up, you gotta take it to a I don't want to say a inexperienced quarterback because he started all year, but a guy that doesn't have the experience when his team is faced with adversity. You brought up Bo Jackson in this run game. Again, I don't know how much success that they're going to have this week in it, to be blunt with you. This is not the team to continue to have lapses in the run game. This is the second best front seven run defense that you've seen this season. Joe, again, from a run defense standpoint, Michigan's not allowing over 100 yards rushing. Like they're not. They're tied for 11th in rushing yards per game. Defensively, they're only giving up 94. You're 56 in the country in rushing. If you're banged up out wide, we're talking about this on Monday, and we don't know if these guys will or will not play. But you look in a situation where that if those guys are banged up and you can't run the football, this one can be closer than what the experts think. Now, I'm going to bring this up really quickly. Elks says we haven't faced quote-unquote adversity after Texas because we don't play with our food. We don't get down 30-3. Don't puddle foot with 3-win teams. Just win. I mean, Joe, the truth. Well, Elks, you're going to defend Ohio State, but listen to me. It's your team, and I get it. And you're going to make every excuse under the sun. You haven't faced adversity. And the truth of the matter is, when this team gets punched in the mouth like it's Rocky IV and they see their blood for the first time, you don't know how they're going to react. You don't. If somebody is able to figure out and lean on you, what if you do have banged up receivers on the outside and you can't run the ball? Now what? Now what? It is a question that they got to answer. Again, every time we talk about him, Ohio State fans go, oh, they're talking down on us. No, we're not. We want to see you challenged. That's all. Again, we're calling you elite at positions. Not great, elite. So I just asked the question. If your guys are banged up out wide, can you run the football effectively enough to get this thing going?
Right. That's my biggest point with this is, again, it's Monday. We have no idea the health situation for their wide receivers. I don't think enough people are like drawing attention to this, by the way. I feel like not enough people are like really talking about this. And maybe they're fine. Maybe they go out there and they play. But I do legitimately think that when your identity this entire year, the reason why you've been so dominant is because Sayin's completing every pass because he's throwing to all these super elite players, and every game is defined by Carnell Tate crazy catch, Jeremiah Smith crazy catch. What is going to happen when you're facing a defense with a pulse that you're
in a rivalry game where everything gets thrown out the window?
Right. I need to see what happens here. And I think that there's truth to the wanting to see how Ohio State responds to adversity. This is going to be the realest opportunity for that to be accomplished. It absolutely is. I will say this, though. I think generally what helps Ohio State in this circumstance the most is something that we've talked about in the past. Ryan Day seems a lot more calm than he's ever been.
Agreed.
He seems like a completely different version of himself.
Got the monkey off his back.
Last year, every time we heard from him, he looked tense as shit. Insanely tense. And if you recall back, it really felt like you slowly started to see him getting more and more stressed leading up to the Michigan game, all for it to fall apart in front of his very eyes because he white-knuckled that game. And again, we talked about this last year. We had a very interesting conversation after they lost to Michigan. I think that the freeness that he has is going to help Ohio State in this circumstance. I think that there is, not that there's less on the line, there's less on his shoulders because he knows that he's taking this team to the top. He knows that nobody's going to be calling for his job if something goes theoretically completely wrong in this game and they do theoretically lose. That, I think, is the biggest part here for Ohio State.
You know, I look at this too, by the way. You know, Michigan is 5th in the Big Ten on third down offensive conversion. They're 16th nationally. what has been missed about, Joe, this Michigan team too, brother, they're converting and getting a lot of first downs. Don't play their game. Now, Elks in the super chat said, well, we don't play with our food. You mean only being down 3 to a 3-win team in Penn State, 4-win team in Penn State? I mean, don't say you did play around with your food for a half. So don't act like that you didn't. I bring up, Joe, if Michigan's able to play their game, this will be a lot closer. However, I know Ohio State's banged up out wide. I know that they've had issues with beating Michigan and Ryan Day. But you just brought up a point here that quite honestly has not been talked about enough with Ryan Day. He does look like a lot more calm. He does look a lot more relaxed. And I think that's why they're going to get it done. I do. I think this time they'll get it done. Now, Ohio State, I will never pick for you on anything else ever again if you lose to Michigan again. Don't do this to me again. I keep picking you to beat them, and you won't. Don't play around with them. I do think that this game's going to get close. I am not picking like the spread at the current moment.
Yeah, I'm 9.5. I think that everyone should take Michigan to cover. Not from premise of Michigan's going to shock Ohio State. This game is too nuts for that to happen.
It's always a very nuts and intense football game. I'm going to take Ohio State to win here. I think Patricia's ability and their ability late in the game to get after Bryce Underwood when he's got to drop back to pass and getting to him is going to be the ultimate thing here. And he's going to probably make a wrong decision, and it's going to propel Ohio State to a win.
Also, very random stray thought just to throw in here. It's kind of funny how similar Ohio State and Michigan's defenses are in the regard that you've got two cast-off NFL defensive coordinators, and both teams' best players on defense are linebacker. No, they're linebackers that are hybrid pass rushers that play multiple positions. So you got Jayshon Barham for Michigan, who they've converted into a really high impactful pass rusher in specific situations.
By the way, he's got the most violent hands in college football.
Oh, I love watching him play, man. He hits people. And then Arvell Reese has turned into this insanely disruptive pass rusher despite being an off-ball linebacker. It's very, very interesting how these teams hate one another so much and they want to be as far away from one another as possible, yet they somehow have such unique similarities on defense.
Yeah, look, man, here's the truth. Both of these teams have been how do I want to say this without it sounding horrible? You remember in the 2000s, 2000 and let's just say 2015-ish, like why those Alabama LSU games were so intense? Well, dude, they just had so many freaking dudes on defense that got drafted. Like I remember 2011, all 22 players on defense for both teams got drafted. I'm going to repeat what I just said. All 22 of them got drafted. That is ridiculous. These two teams have been probably overall the best defensive teams the last 5 years, not named Georgia.
Yeah, I agree with that. I completely agree with that.
What they do and how violent they are when they do it. Look, I'm not picking the spread on this one. Give me Ohio State to win. I just think that I don't like Bryce Underwood having to probably throw to win it in certain situations. But if Ohio State can't run the ball here, it might be a long day for them too.
Yeah, and we'll see what ends up fully transpiring here. But I think that we're both on the same page that we're going to see an Ohio State victory finally for the first time at Breakthrough.
It's going to be interesting.